To make up for their long-lost biological son, my filthy rich adoptive parents cut ties with me just because I didn't come home one night. And even my fiancée Ashley, who I had loved for 11 years, didn't care whether I lived or died. She pushed me into the pool, even though I had a raging fever and couldn't swim a single stroke, and left me soaking in there for over 4 hours straight. But once I finally gave up and decided to leave, every single one of them would lose their minds right now just because I refused to give up my grad school spot. They had me standing in the rain for 2 hours with nowhere to turn. I had no choice but to cave and shouted toward the house. Fine, I will give my grad school spot to my brother Jason. The front door of the mansion slowly swung open, and my fiancée Ashley looked down at me with cold eyes. Her tone was icy. Was that so hard? See, no big deal, she held an umbrella. And let me inside even though I was soaked to the bone. That usual indifferent look in her eyes now carried a hint of obvious satisfaction. She poured me a cup of hot water and said with me by your side the grad school thing. Shouldn't matter to you at all, but Jason is different. He spent so many years stuck out in the middle of nowhere and he's way behind academically. He struggles to keep up in class, but at least he's motivated. Do him a solid this time, will you? Ashley's tone sounded gentle on the surface, but underneath it was an unshakable certainty, like she already knew I would give in. I stared at the woman standing right in front of me, my whole body trembling uncontrollably. The cold I felt inside was way more bone-chilling than standing out in the rain. This was the woman I had been head over heels for 11 years, my own fiancée, and it wasn't until today that it finally hit me. She wasn't cold-hearted by nature. She just saved every bit of that coldness for me. I have no memory of my early childhood as far back as I can remember. I grew up in an orphanage. When I was 10, the Fang family adopted me. Back then they had just lost their biological son, and the whole family was wrapped up in grief even after taking me in. The vibe at home never really lifted. The Fang parents had crazy high expectations for me, always comparing me to Jason, hoping I would turn into the perfect rich kid son they always wanted. Those days were brutal. My schedule was packed with endless tutoring sessions and extracurriculars, and I got chewed out constantly through all of it. Ashley was the only bright spot in that miserable chapter of my life. She had this effortless grace about her, quiet and reserved. She always handled everything flawlessly. She was like the most dazzling girl in any room, and I couldn't help but be drawn to her. I literally could not take my eyes off her. As luck would have it, our two families were close and they had arranged a betrothal for us when we were kids. After the real Jason went missing, the engagement got passed down to me, the adopted kid. From age 10 to 21, I always knew she was my future fiancée. Ashley never clearly returned my feelings, but she never turned me down either. She always played the part of a devoted fiancé and stayed by my side. I used to think she could see me quietly watching over her, that my sincerity had gotten through to her, and she was willing to let me in. She even showed genuine care every now and then, but just when I thought things between us were getting warmer, Jason showed up, and from that day on, everything changed. The heat from the cup was burning my fingertips. I snapped back to reality and headed into the bathroom. To rinse off the rainwater, Ashley stood in place, watching me walk away, and I suddenly stopped in my tracks. She always pulled this move whenever I was about to walk away for good. She would toss me just enough of a small gesture to keep me from leaving. But this time I did not feel the warmth she was expecting. I turned around and looked at her coldly. Ashley, I can't swim. I definitely can't dive either, so who exactly is Ashley planning to take to the Maldives? The answer was obvious, but Ashley did not even flinch. She just kept her composure and followed up with, then where do you want to go for the holidays? I will take care of everything. It was rare for her to actually ask for my opinion. I didn't push back, but I didn't respond either. I let out a bitter laugh. It was the dead of winter, and she had locked me outside in the pouring rain for 2 hours straight. How could I not get sick? Ashley pulled me into bed, and even tucked the blanket around me. She said, stay put. I will go grab your medicine. She had barely turned around when her phone rang, and the next second I heard Jason's voice on the other end crying, Ashley, where are you? My stomach hurts so bad I think I am dying. I'm on my way, hold on. The moment she heard Jason cry out for help, an urgency appeared on Ashley's face that I had never seen before. Without a second thought, she bolted for the door and completely forgot I even existed. The huge mansion suddenly felt completely empty with just me left behind. The fever made my head spin, and as I drifted in and out of consciousness, my chest ached with a dull, burning pain. The difference between being loved and not loved was crystal clear. Luckily, my birth parents had already found me not long ago. With trembling hands, I dialed that overseas number I had turned down so many times before, and said about that offer to come to the States, I accept. Once I wrap up my research project here, I will fly back and reunite with you guys in 2 weeks. Choked up sobs of joy came through the phone. Oh, thank God, our baby boy. We are going to make it all up to you after all these years. We have finally made it to the day we get to have you back for these 2 weeks, spend some time with your adoptive family. Say your proper goodbyes. I just laughed to myself. Would anyone actually care that I was leaving? There was no point. 2 weeks later, I packed up everything and planned to slip away quietly from this heartless place. The fever hit me fast and hard. My whole body felt like it was on fire. Even breathing was a struggle, and as my mind started to blur, I forced myself to dial 911 and got taken to the hospital alone in an ambulance. By the time I finished my IV drip alone in the hospital room, the sky was already turning light. I pulled out the needle, got up, and walked to the restroom. Just as I turned the corner in the hallway, I heard a familiar voice. Ashley, it's all my fault. My immune system is just terrible. I ate some ice cream and got a stomach bug. Now you had to stay with me at the hospital all night. I froze on the spot and peered through the glass door of the room. The person inside was Jason, and Ashley was holding a thermos, spoon-feeding Jason soup one careful bite at a time, blowing on each spoonful to cool it down. The tenderness on her face was something I had never seen before. She said, you went through so much as a kid. That's why your health is so fragile. It's okay. I will stick by you and help you get your health back. Jason smiled through grateful tears. Ashley, you stayed here all night. Won't Ryan be upset about that the moment my name came up? The warmth on Ashley's face faded instantly and her voice went cold. He has no right to be upset, even though I already knew Ashley treated me and Jason like night and day. Hearing the words no right still hit me like a knife straight to the chest. I had loved Ashley for 11 years, been her official boyfriend for 3 of them. and all I got in the end was told I had no right. I slumped against the wall feeling completely drained. On the third day after Jason returned to the Fang family, there was a car accident, and everyone was convinced I was behind it, no matter how many times I tried to explain. Not a single person was willing to believe me in the eyes of the Fang family and Ashley. I was just a scheming lowlife who would do anything to hold on to my place in the family. So the way they looked at me got colder and colder with each passing day. Those icy eyes of hers cut right through me, and I forced out a single word. Stephanie ignored me completely and looked straight into the hospital room. The moment she saw Ashley and Jason cozied up together reading, she understood everything. She shoved me roughly into the corner without any regard for how weak I still was. Ryan, I know exactly what you're thinking. Seeing Jason and Ashley together. You're jealous, aren't you? I almost laughed out loud. I was Ashley's legitimate boyfriend, and yet here I was being interrogated like some kind of criminal. I gritted my teeth and shot back, am I not supposed to be upset? Ashley is my girlfriend, you have got some nerve. You stepped into Jason's shoes and lived under the Fang roof for 11 years. You lived like royalty for 11 years and now you actually think you deserve all of it. Wake up, everything you have was meant for Jason. If you know what's good for you, break up with Ashley and step aside as long as Jason is happy. We can treat you the way we used to. On paper, I was the Fang family's adopted son, but in reality, I got blamed and knocked around constantly. No matter how hard I tried or how much I achieved, I could never escape their contempt. Simply because I was not Jason, my eyes went red instantly. I clenched my jaw and finally asked the question I had buried inside for way too long. This wasn't my choice. Your parents were the ones who came looking to adopt me, and now that Jason is back, I am more than willing to leave the Fang family and hand everything back to him. So why won't you let me go? Why? You don't actually think we care about losing you? Do you? It's all about the family reputation? Those words hit me like a thunderclap, and I felt my whole body jolt. I swayed on my feet for a few seconds, and then my legs finally gave out. So that was it. The Fang family couldn't afford the reputation of dumping their adopted kid the moment their real son showed up. So they kept me locked in place and stood by watching Jason strip away everything I cared about. From the very beginning, I was never anything more than a emotionless placeholder to them. I spent 3 days in the hospital and not a single person came to see me. I grabbed my bags and went back to what they called home. It was just as empty as when I left. Ashley probably hadn't come back once in those 3 days she had been at Jason's side the whole time. This house was the gift Ashley gave me on my 20th birthday, and I had always thought of it as our home. But now that Ashley was no longer mine, this place had long since stopped feeling like any kind of home. I took my medication and stretched out on a lounge chair by the pool to soak up some sun. I was not sure how much time had passed when a shadow fell over me. I opened my eyes and found Jason looking down at me with a smug grin. Hey Ryan, you are finally up. I came over today specifically to thank you for being so generous. Handing over that grad school spot you spent 3 years grinding to earn. How did you get in here? I regretted asking the moment it came out. Only Ashley and I had keys to this place. Obviously Ashley was the one who let him in, and sure enough Jason grinned and covered his mouth laughing. Come on, obviously Ashley gave me a key. She has been staying at my place for the last few days. She had something going on today, so she sent me over to grab a few changes of clothes, hearing that made me feel sick to my stomach, like I had just swallowed a fly. I pushed down the disgust and decided I was done engaging with him. So I told him point blank, go grab your stuff from upstairs and get out. But Jason took his sweet time, plopping down by the pool and deliberately got in my face. Hey Ryan, I heard you can't swim, so why do you think Ashley built this pool? Who do you think it was built for? Oh, and by the way, did you know, I have loved swimming since I was a little kid. I even won a swimming championship. His sharp voice jabbed at me like a needle. I held back the urge to snap and said with ice in my tone, knock yourself out swimming since you're clearly not great at much else. At least staying in good shape means your parents won't have to stress about you as much. Jason shot up like a scalded cat and glared at me with pure fury. I could not be bothered and turned to head back inside. As I walked past him, he suddenly grabbed my arm and shoved me hard toward the pool right in that split second. 2 figures appeared at the poolside and each grabbed one of us. I had barely registered what was happening before Jason already slipped into a pitiful victim act and wailed. Dad, Mom Ryan tried to push me into the pool. My stomach is still messed up. No, I did not. He was the one who, before I could even finish explaining, Mr. and Mrs. Fang were both glaring daggers at me. Mrs. Fang snapped in a fury. We heard you ended up in the hospital. We were actually going to come check on you. But look at what you just did. What did Jason ever do to you that you keep going after him like this? Are you trying to kill him? The screaming came at me from all sides. And like every other time before, I just stood there with my head down, too beaten down to fight back. Mrs. Fang's finger was practically in my face and Mr. Fang was even more worked up. He was screaming and calling me an ungrateful snake, and when that wasn't enough, he hauled off and kicked me in the side, sending me crashing into the pool. It was a full-depth pool and I could not swim. I thrashed around as hard as I could, but my body felt like it was made of lead and kept sinking. Through the blur, I watched the Fang family, all 3 of them, walk arm in arm back into the house. I could even hear them laughing and saying a swimming pool won't kill him. He was going to push Jason in anyway, let him see what it feels like sitting in ice-cold water. My body kept sinking like a fallen leaf, and endless pain and regret swallowed me whole. Dying like this would be kind of a shame. I still had not gotten to meet my birth parents, and I wondered if they would spoil me rotten the way the Fangs did with Jason. Then there was a splash. A dark figure dove into the water and hauled me to the edge of the pool. I choked out a mouthful of water and slowly forced my eyes open, and saw Ashley along with whoever had just saved me the moment I saw Ashley. A small, unexpected wave of warmth washed over me, so she did care about me at least a little bit. But the very next second, Ashley's eyes turned ice cold. Ryan, you never know when to quit. The second anything involved Jason, Ashley lost all her usual calm. I was stunned, and before I could even get a word in, Jason came running out sobbing and gently tugged on Ashley's arm. With the most pitiful look on his face, Ashley, please don't blame Ryan. He probably didn't mean it. Jason stopped defending him. He never learns his lesson. She continued and said, for the sake of how long Ryan and I have known each other, I had someone pull you out this time, but if it ever happens again, I will not go easy on you. I collapsed onto the ground. My soaked clothes were ice cold, but nowhere near as cold as the chill deep inside me. Same story every single time over and over again. They always took Jason's side and treated me like I was pure evil. But Jason was never the one who got hurt. I was always the one left broken and bleeding. The moment I stepped inside, the laughter in the living room went dead silent. Everyone stared at me like I was some disgusting intruder who had no business being there. I dragged my freezing, exhausted body toward the stairs. Wait, where is my jade ring? I think it might have fallen in the pool. Jason started making a huge scene, and I knew immediately he was doing it on purpose to come after me. I picked up my pace trying to get away from everyone's eyes. But Mr. Fang was not about to let me off the hook. Hey, you stop right there. Did you throw Jason's jade ring into the pool? I turned around and weakly tried to defend myself. It was not me, I did not push him. And I definitely did not throw his ring in either. I had barely recovered from that bad fever, and after struggling in the water I felt dizzy and lightheaded. My head was spinning and I could barely stay on my feet. I saw you grab Jason's arm and try to shove him in. How dare you try to deny it? Mrs. Fang's shrill voice echoed through the entire house. At the same time, Jason had already turned to face Ashley. His eyes red and his expression completely pitiful. If it were just a regular ring, it would be fine, but Mom and Dad gave me this one. During all those years I was taken away, that ring was the only thing that kept me holding on. It was the one thing that kept me hoping I would see Dad again. Mrs. Fang heard that, and immediately thought of everything Jason had suffered. She pulled him into her arms and burst into tears. Mr. Fang beside her was absolutely furious. He stormed over in a few quick strides and yanked me down from the stairs. How can you be so cruel? You are eaten up with jealousy, Ryan, if you do not fish Jason's ring out of that pool today. You and I are far from done, he was screaming at me, while dragging me toward the door. No matter how hard I fought, I could not break free. All I could do was look to Ashley for help, but her eyes were completely cold. Not even a trace of warmth. Ashley turned and came back with a diving mask. Put this on and go find Jason's ring in the pool. When I shook my head, her voice immediately hardened. You owe him this. All four of them stood at the edge of the pool, laughing and chatting occasionally, telling me to stop stalling. The sky slowly got darker, and the water kept getting colder. My vision blurred, and my movements got slower and slower. I barely managed to break the surface for a breath when I heard Ashley's voice. Do not even think about dragging this out if you do not find that ring. Do not bother coming back up. I sank back to the bottom in despair. I searched the pool for a full 4 hours and finally found Jason's jade ring wedged in the drain. I gripped the ring and used every last bit of strength to pull myself out. I collapsed flat on the edge of the pool, completely unable to move. The others crowded around and snatched the ring right out of my hand. They stood over me looking down at my pathetic state. Jason linked arms with Mr. and Mrs. Fang and walked away without a single glance back. Ashley dropped a cold good luck and turned to follow, and Jason never once looked back at me. I lay there frozen by the pool listening as their laughter faded into the distance. And then I blacked out completely. I lay alone in that empty mansion for 2 full days. The first thing I did when I came to was call my birth parents overseas. I have made up my mind, forget the short-term visa. Just go ahead and apply for my permanent residency. A burst of excited cheers came through the phone. But inside, I felt nothing. Leaving this city I had lived in for over 20 years was a painful and terrifying choice. I was not sure I could adjust to life abroad, and I was not sure my birth parents would love me without any conditions. The road ahead was full of unknowns and risks, but I was willing to face them because I knew one thing for sure. It could not possibly be worse than this. Permanent residency involved a lot more paperwork than a regular visa. I gathered a massive pile of documents and made multiple trips back and forth to the U.S. Embassy the last time I came out. A flashy Ferrari blew past me. I did not catch the plate. But I already knew there was only one of that model in this entire city, a limited run of 100 worldwide, and it belonged to Ashley. My heart jumped for a second, but I quickly told myself to calm down. Ashley only had eyes for Jason. She would never notice me standing on the side of the road, and even if she did, she would not care. That night, I sat alone on the cold floor with the TV blasting, trying to drown out the emptiness in the house when suddenly the front door unlocked. A face I had not seen in a while appeared in the doorway. It was Ashley. She walked up to me and said, "Where are you going?" "What do you mean I saw you at the U.S. Embassy today? What were you doing there?" "Our research team is almost done with the experiment. We should have results soon, and my professor signed me up for an academic conference in the States. I am going over there to present our findings." It was a cover story I had already prepared. Ashley gave a small nod when she first spotted me at the embassy today. Her first thought was that she had the wrong person. How could he be sneaking off to America without telling her? But when she turned back around, she saw him get into a cab and felt something uneasy stir inside her, though it did not last long. She was certain I was still deeply in love with her and would never actually leave. All these years I had never been close with the Fangs. Ashley was the only person I had in this world. I had chased after her for so long. The love and attachment had become a part of me, not something that could just be cut loose overnight. Ashley gave a small smile and reached out to hold me like she used to. "Want to watch a movie? I will stay with you." I almost asked, "Are you not going to be with Jason tonight?" But I hesitated and held it back. I knew her playbook too well. She always hit you, then handed you a piece of candy in the end. I did not say no. I picked a classic old romance and cried my eyes out watching it. But Ashley kept looking down at her phone when the end credits started rolling. I stood up and said quietly, "I am tired." Going to bed, I slowly headed upstairs. But Ashley stopped me. "Hey, tomorrow, there is a dinner at the Intercontinental, a celebration for Jason's grad school acceptance as his older brother. Make sure you bring a gift." I said nothing and walked straight upstairs without looking back once. First thing the next morning, Ashley had a gift box delivered to me. I opened it and found an absurdly expensive diamond watch inside. The card read, "Congratulations, Jason, on getting exactly what you deserve, signed with my name, Ryan." I just shook my head with a bitter smile. Ashley had thought of everything. I just was not sure whether this thoughtfulness was for my sake or for Jason's. When I arrived at the hotel, the private room was already filled with warm laughter. I stood at the door with my hand on the knob, debating whether to go in. If I did, the good mood in there would instantly die. After all, nobody in there wanted me around, but if I did not show up, the Fangs and Ashley would call me ungrateful and inconsiderate. While I was still going back and forth, the sound of something shattering came from inside. Through the glass, I could see Jason with his lips pursed, the smile completely gone from his face. Mrs. Fang immediately picked up on the shift in his mood and quickly asked, "What is wrong, honey?" "Nothing. It is just that Ryan's experiment got results. Apparently it is some kind of major breakthrough and the whole group chat is blowing up congratulating him." Jason's voice was full of self-pity and Mr. Fang's smile faded immediately. But Stephanie was not buying it and grabbed Jason's phone to scroll through herself. Today was supposed to be the day the grad school results were announced, and at first the group chat was all about congratulating Jason. But then someone posted about my experiment breakthrough, and the whole vibe instantly flipped. Everyone was calling me a research prodigy, saying I should go straight into the PhD program. I had completely stolen Jason's thunder, and Stephanie slammed the phone down on the table in rage. That Ryan is obviously doing this on purpose, choosing today of all days to drop his news. He is trying to make Jason look bad, Mrs. Fang chimed right in. This Ryan is always pulling stunts like this when nobody at home pays him attention. He goes and shows off at school what a piece of work. Mr. Fang pulled out his phone and was about to call me everything Ryan has was taken from Jason. What has he got to be so smug about call him over here right now? Dad, even if you drag him over, it will not do any good. You know how thick-skinned he is. But I have a better idea, one that will make sure Ryan never gets to act up again. What idea? It is just an experiment. No matter how big of a breakthrough it is, we just say Jason did it, problem solved. Then Jason would be the one getting called a research prodigy, and with that on his record. Getting into the PhD program straight would be a done deal, Stephanie said with a proud grin. Jason immediately jumped to his feet, the self-pity on his face replaced with pure excitement. Steph, you always come through. Mr. and Mrs. Fang both nodded eagerly. You are absolutely right. Everything Ryan has belongs to Jason anyway. We raised him for over 10 years, one research result. Handing it over to Jason is the least he can do with the whole family on board. Stephanie was itching to move fast, but she knew her relationship with me had always been bad. Going to me directly would get her nowhere, so she turned her eyes to Ashley. I stood outside that door feeling like I had been dropped in ice water. I barely held myself back from storming in. Even though I had always known the Fang family felt nothing for me, hearing them actually plot this out, planning to steal my work and strip everything away from me, still sent a wave of hollow devastation through me. My heart was pounding. I stood there with clenched fists, Ashley. This woman I had loved for 11 years. Would she really go along with this? After a moment of silence, I will go talk to Ryan and have him hand the results over to Jason. I did not go back to the house. Instead, I turned off my phone and hid inside the lab. But Ashley still tracked me down. She got the key from the dean. She knew me too well. She knew this was the only place I had left to go. Under the dim light, I looked up from my computer. The dark circles under my eyes were obvious and I looked completely worn down. My eyes were red as I watched Ashley walk toward me, so I heard the experiment got results. Congrats! I closed my eyes and said nothing, clinging to one last shred of hope that she was genuinely happy for me, that she would not say the words I was dreading after a long silence. Ashley looked at me with a perfectly calm expression and said slowly, "Ryan, give this research result to Jason." Those words hit me like a sledgehammer right in the chest, even though I already knew what she would choose. Hearing her say it so plainly still felt like a knife twisting straight through me before I could even respond. Ashley just kept going with her reasons. "You are smart and talented. You will get more results in the future, but Jason is different. He is starting grad school and he needs published work to back him up." I pushed myself up from the desk and demanded with everything I had, "Smart and talented, can you not see how hard I have worked for this? I lived in this lab day and night. The chemicals ate through my skin layer by layer. This result is everything I have got, Ashley." "Do you even have a heart?" My questions clearly wore out. Ashley's patience. "Yeah, you worked hard, so what? Ryan, do not forget where you come from. You took Jason's place in that family and lived well for over 10 years. Making this one small sacrifice for him is the least you can do. You should be grateful. Consider this your way of making things right by Jason." When I heard the word ungrateful, I suddenly started laughing. The kind of laugh that made my chest ache. I looked at this woman I had loved for 11 years and realized that in her eyes, I had always just been someone who owed Jason a debt he needed to spend his whole life repaying. For the first time, I pushed her away. "Ashley, go ahead and think of me as ungrateful. I am not giving this research result to Jason. Not this time. I am not backing down." I turned and walked out of the lab without looking back. Ashley stood there. There was nothing left in that empty house that I needed anymore. All I wanted was to finish my report in peace and leave this suffocating place. With my work in hand and never come back, I laid low for a few days and heard nothing from Ashley. Part of me quietly hoped she had finally given up, so I grabbed my laptop and headed back to the lab, planning to wrap up the report. But when I got to the building, I tried scanning my face multiple times, and the access system kept saying denied. I pulled out my phone and called my professor right away. "Professor, why is my access not working?" The professor, who had always been warm and supportive, now sounded ice cold. "Ryan, starting today, you are no longer a member of this lab and you will not be allowed back in." I stormed over to the academic office in a rage, but my professor was not there. A colleague I knew quietly pulled me aside and whispered, "Ryan, going to your professor will not help. He did not want to do this either. His hands are tied." I crouched down in the hallway outside the office, feeling completely hollow. Despair flooding over me like a tide. I should have seen this coming after I turned Ashley down. She was never going to just let it go. She would find another way to come after me. And in this entire city, who else could force both the school and a professor to cave? It had to be the Whites or the Fangs. In that moment, I felt like the ground had dropped out from under me. I swayed on my feet standing there. Why is this happening? I called back in disbelief. But all I got was a dead tone. The call had already been ended. I sank to the floor right there. I opened my laptop and my heart sank even further. All my lab access had been revoked. I could not pull up any of the lab files. And the research I had bled and sweated for was gone completely out of reach. Whoa, the Intercontinental is not cheap. You are kidding me. Jason is basically Fang family royalty. One dinner is nothing to him. Exactly, and Jason is good-looking, kind-hearted, and now this good at research. He is amazing. In the middle of all that praise, one out-of-place comment popped up. Why does Jason's result look exactly like Ryan's? Did he copy Ryan, the girl who said it usually kept a low profile? The moment those words dropped, the chat went dead silent. Right then, the whole group chat lit right back up. Someone posted congrats to Jason on his results. Apparently several industry experts had already praised it right after that. A flood of congrats emojis flooded in. You could practically feel Jason's ego swelling through the screen. Thanks everyone. I've been grinding for so long and it finally paid off. I am thrilled tonight I'm buying at the Intercontinental. Everyone better show up an hour later. A post on the school website went completely viral. The poster shared Jason's research journal, laying out in detail his entire year plus of experiment work, and then called me out by name, accusing me of shameless plagiarism and telling me to have some integrity. The whole school exploded. The post shot straight to #1 on the trending list. Ryan, the honor student who had 3 straight years of scholarships, apparently stole someone else's research and tried to claim it as his own by publishing first. Insults and accusations came pouring in wave after wave. They surrounded me completely, drowning out anything I tried to say. Right then my phone buzzed. It was the registrar's office. Hello, is this Ryan? This is the registrar's office. We have reviewed the post on the school forum. We also talked to your professors and classmates and confirmed the content is accurate. This school has zero tolerance for plagiarism. You are being expelled effective immediately. I walked across campus feeling completely hollow. Classmates pointed and whispered as I passed. The word plagiarist rang clear in my ears after everything I had poured into that work. I ended up labeled a thief. My mind went blank. I took off running across campus like a madman, screaming as I ran. I am not a thief. I never copied anyone's research. That was mine. It was always mine. I got out of the cab with my mask on. But someone recognized me instantly, Ryan, about this whole plagiarism scandal. Do you have anything to say even if you stole a breakthrough like that? It is still not yours. Why would you do something like this? I heard you are adopted and the real owner of this work is your own brother. Do you think the Fangs will still claim you after this? The day I went back to file my withdrawal papers, the front gate was packed with people, students, and reporters with big cameras in just a few days. That post had already spread to schools nearby. My reputation as a thief was completely sealed. While Jason, with his so-called breakthrough, got attention from major names in academia, and plenty of media coverage too the moment I finished talking, the crowd erupted right at that moment. Mr. Fang stepped out of a black SUV and pushed through the crowd. Right in front of every reporter, student, and camera, he slapped me hard across the face. What kind of nonsense are you spewing now? The hit knocked me straight to the ground. Not one person around dared to help me up. I stopped trying to run and slowly turned around, staring straight into the cameras with cold eyes. Then I slowly pulled off my mask. I will say this one last time. I did not plagiarize anything, and it does not matter whether the Fangs claim me or not, because I am done claiming them too the second I said it. The insults erupted again louder than before. I was surrounded. Crushed under the weight of it all, in the chaos, someone threw something. A full water bottle hit me square in the forehead. Everything went black and I passed out cold. An ambulance finally showed up and broke up the whole circus. Mr. Fang stood in front of the cameras, seething with anger today in front of all the media. I am setting the record straight. Ryan is our adopted son. Ever since we brought him home from the orphanage, our family treated him like our own. We gave him everything, but he was always a troublemaker. He never cared about school. He cheated on tests. He lied constantly and never learned his lesson. Middle school entrance exams, college entrance exams, every exam in college, he cheated his way through all of it. And now he crossed the line, completely stealing his own brother's research. Just to feed his own ego, a kid this rotten does not deserve to be part of our family. I am announcing right now, from this day forward, the Fangs have nothing to do with Ryan. I got off the hospital bed with a blank expression, tossing my phone aside, and walked step by step toward the rooftop, standing at the edge dozens of feet up. I slowly opened my arms, feeling the city's familiar wind one last time. A familiar voice called out from behind me, laced with panic. I turned around and saw Ashley rushing toward me when I woke up. The room was empty. Only my phone kept buzzing. Fighting through the pain, I reached for it by the bed. The screen was full of hate messages. Everything was already out there. Now everyone thought I was some corrupt thief, an ungrateful traitor. But this time I did not even have the energy left to feel sad. Ashley froze for a second. She did not answer, but her eyes had already told me everything. Ryan, stop overthinking this. None of that matters. No matter what, you are still a Fang. And you are still my fiancé after all this settles down. I will make it up to you, Ryan. Stop being so stubborn. If this were before, and Ashley acknowledged me like this, I would have let go of every ounce of pain and run right back to her. But now, with my hand over my chest, every part of me ached. I slowly crouched down, pale as a ghost, trying to hold myself together, just to scrape together the last bit of warmth I had left. Standing up on that high rooftop, it felt like one gust of wind could knock me over. Ashley frowned, her voice carrying an emotion I could not quite name. Ryan, get down from there. She assumed I would do what I always did, quietly accept whatever scrap of kindness she offered, but I just laughed. I shook my head gently, looking at her with a dazed expression. Ashley, you gave my research notes to Jason, didn't you? And you also teamed up with the Fangs to twist the truth at school. You forced my expulsion too, right? I said nothing. I just looked at her like she was a total stranger. She never once saw my effort or my pain. She just wrote all of it off as me being stubborn and difficult. Suddenly it hit me, why waste my life on someone who never understood me at all? None of them deserve it. I stood up and quietly walked toward the edge. Ashley rushed forward and yanked me back down from the ledge. Seeing me still crouched in the corner, she let out a breath of relief. She looked down at me, her tone carrying a hint of blame. Ryan, I know you were upset, but don't pull a stunt like this again. Are you doing this just to make us feel guilty? Before she could finish, I had already walked into the room and shut the door. Ashley felt uneasy, like something was slipping away fast. Right then, Jason texted her again and again. She hesitated for a moment, but eventually turned and left the hospital. Anyway, Ryan is still mad. I will just give him space for now once he cools off. I can explain everything properly. He loves me too much. He will forgive me in the end. Wasn't that always how it went before? Once she settled that in her mind, she felt a lot better. Seeing me ignore her, Ashley felt frustrated. She hurried after me, wanting to explain everything that had happened. She wanted to tell me that all these years she only ever loved me, and that everything she did for Jason lately was because the Fangs took me in. She just wanted to repay them for raising me, but before she could say any of it, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, hesitated for a second, then called out to me, "Ryan, I meant what I said. I will make it up to you." Back in my room, I quickly grabbed my documents and headed straight for the airport. Before boarding, I shut off my phone and dropped it straight into the airport toilet. "Ashley, from now on, you mean nothing to me? May we never cross paths again?" Meanwhile, Ashley, sitting in a speeding car, felt a strange wave of unease. That would not go away. The plane cut through thick clouds. The cabin shook slightly, and I watched the city skyline shrink through the window. 20-plus years of tension in my chest finally loosened for the first time. My phone was already sitting at the bottom of an airport toilet. That number, carrying every ounce of shame, pain, and obsession, along with everything about that city, was now far behind me after over 10 hours in the air. The plane landed at JFK. Stepping out of the terminal, warm, humid air hit my face, nothing like the biting cold back home. Two figures stood out in the crowd. A man in a tailored suit carried himself with quiet confidence. A woman in an elegant dress. With flawless makeup, both of them were on their toes, scanning the crowd, their eyes full of anticipation the moment they spotted me. Their eyes welled up instantly. The man rushed forward. Stumbling a little, the woman reached out, then stopped midair. As if afraid to startle me, his voice shook uncontrollably. "Ryan, it's me, your dad, David." The woman followed right behind. Tears already streaming down her face, she gently held my wrist. Her fingers cool, but her touch impossibly tender. "Sweetheart, it's Mom. Grace, we finally get to have you back." These were my birth parents, founders of one of the top biotech companies in the world. They never abandoned me on purpose. When I was 1, a rival company orchestrated my kidnapping. They eventually caught the kidnappers, but during the chaos, an accomplice lost me, and I disappeared without a trace for over 20 years. They never stopped searching. They even handed most of the company over to their team and traveled the world themselves looking for me. I looked at their teary eyes and felt none of the distance I expected. Instead, a strange sense of familiarity washed over me. Unlike the Fangs, they did not scrutinize me. They just carefully guided me toward the car, the whole way asking if I was tired or hungry for anything. Every bit of concern in their voice felt completely genuine. The Chin family's house sat on a hillside outside the city. When the door opened, it was nothing like the cold luxury of the Fangs' place. Instead, it felt warm and lived in a huge photo wall hung in the living room, covered entirely with pictures of me, from baby photos to sketches they had made at different ages based on leads from the kidnappers. The whole wall was packed with them all these years. All we had was our imagination to picture what you looked like. Grace gently touched one of the photos, her voice breaking. "We always told ourselves once we found you, we would fill in every gap." David handed me a warm glass of milk, adding, "Your room has been ready for a while now. We decorated it in a style kids your age tend to like. If you don't like it, we can redo it right away." I walked into my new room. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, warming the floor. There was a brand new laptop and stacks of research books on the desk closet, full of clothes in every size. Even the bathroom had skincare products picked out already. Gentle formulas for sensitive skin, all of it so different. From that cold appearance-obsessed room at the Fangs over the following days, David and Grace never once pressured me. They just let me adjust to life in America at my own pace. They took me out to try all kinds of food, showed me around every corner of New York, and patiently listened as I told them about my years with the Fangs. Whenever I mentioned being punished or ignored, their eyes would well up and they would squeeze my hand tight. Over and over, they would say, "We are sorry, sweetheart. We failed to protect you," unlike the Fangs, who never stopped judging and comparing. David and Grace paid close attention to everything I loved once they saw my passion for biotech research. They offered to bring me straight into Chin Biotech's core lab and even hired 3 Nobel laureates to mentor me. When I showed them the early draft of the research the Fangs and Ashley had stolen from me, the mentors were stunned, praising me for having real talent for research. "Ryan, your approach here is incredibly original. Just polish it a little more, and it could easily get published in a top international journal," one mentor said seriously. "Chin Biotech is ready to back you with all the funding and equipment you need to see this project through." With my family's support and my mentor's guidance, I threw myself completely into the work. With no Fang family sabotage and no Ashley holding me back, my research took off without a hitch. In just 6 months, I had refined my results. My paper got published in Nature and instantly caused a stir across the global biotech community. News reached back home right in the middle of Jason's hype cycle. Stephanie and Ashley had been riding high off Jason's stolen results in business and academic circles, even landing several major project partnerships. When the Nature paper reached their hands, everyone froze. Jason stared at the familiar methodology and data in the paper. His face went white as a sheet. He could not even follow the advanced calculations in it. That research journal they published earlier was just Stephanie piecing things together, using scraps from the notes I had lost. Now this paper, published in a top journal, is packed with detail and airtight logic. It even adds key experimental steps he never made public. Anyone with eyes can tell who the real researcher is. This can't be happening. Jason slumped on the couch, his voice shaking. Ryan was already expelled. How could he publish such an incredible paper? It has to be plagiarism, Ashley. Don't panic, we have your lab notes and the school verification. We can say Ryan held a grudge and deliberately copied your idea to publish first. but their excuses were no match for the hard facts. Soon, several top experts in the international research world spoke out publicly confirming my paper was original, and pointing out that Jason's earlier results had multiple logic holes and fake data. Even worse, that teacher who had quietly warned me before couldn't stand what the Fang family and Ashley had done and stepped forward to expose the truth to the media, including Ashley forcing the school to expel me and Stephanie coaching Jason to copy my research. Once the news broke, the internet exploded. The praise for Jason vanished instantly, replaced by a flood of blame and insults. So Ryan was the real genius. Jason was just a thief. The Fangs and Ashley are disgusting. They drove him out and then stole his work together. The Fang family stock price tanked instantly. Partners rushed to cancel contracts and debt collectors kept showing up. Mr. Fang got so worked up he suffered a sudden brain hemorrhage and ended up in intensive care. Mrs. Fang cried every day. Looking at the mess at home, she was full of regret. Stephanie was expelled for inciting fraud and defamation, and also faced legal consequences. Ashley had it even worse than the Fangs because of the scandal. The white group reputation went into a free fall. Several major projects were forced to shut down. The losses were massive, and Ashley's father was furious enough to end up in the hospital. He ordered her to fix it immediately or lose her inheritance. What pushed her over the edge was finally realizing that what she felt for me was never just habit or responsibility. For years, I had quietly followed her around, taking care of every little thing, stayed up all night by her bedside when she was sick and when she ran into trouble. I did everything I could to solve it. She had long since gotten used to me being there, used to my effort, and without even noticing started depending on me and falling for me. But blinded by Jason's weakness and the debt between the two families, she kept hurting me until she pushed me away for good when she saw my paper in Nature and saw me standing on stage at an international academic conference, calm, confident, and glowing. She finally realized that the Ryan she had ignored and looked down on had already become someone far beyond her reach, and the person she destroyed with her own hands was the one who loved her most and would have given her everything. Ashley went crazy searching for me. She used every connection the White family and the Fangs had, and even flew to the U.S. herself, hitting the streets of New York one by one trying to find me. But my parents had already anticipated her move and set up strict privacy measures for me. She searched for 3 full months and never even caught a glimpse of me. Just when Ashley was close to despair, she received an anonymous email. Inside was only one photo, me standing in Chin Biotech's lab with my parents. All of us smiling brightly in the background. She could barely make out the lab sign. It read Chin Biotech Core Lab Ryan. Ashley held her phone, shaking all over, tears streaming down her face. She finally realized that I had not only found my birth parents, but was also living a life thousands if not millions of times better than I ever had with the Fangs. And because of her own stupidity and obsession, she had lost me forever. Meanwhile, Mr. Fang finally woke up in intensive care. But the first thing he did was ask where I was. When he learned that I had not only found my birth parents, but was also an internationally known research genius, he could not breathe and blacked out again. This time, he never woke up again. Mr. Fang's death brought the Fang family crashing down. Mrs. Fang spent her days in a daze repeating over and over, "Ryan, I'm sorry, we were wrong." Jason was hated by everyone for the fraud scandal, and wherever he went, people called him out. He finally broke down mentally and was sent to a psychiatric hospital. Stephanie was sentenced to prison and spent her youth behind bars. The forum was packed with celebrities and elites, and when I walked in, everyone's eyes landed on me. I noticed Ashley in the corner. She looked much thinner and her face was pale. All her old glow was gone. She looked at me with guilt and pleading in her eyes. I just gave her a flat glance and looked away, like she was a complete stranger after the forum ended. Ashley stopped me, her voice hoarse and choked with tears. "Ryan, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please give me one more chance. I can do anything for you. I can make it up to you." I looked at her calmly and said flatly, "Ashley, you did nothing wrong. You just do not love me, that's all. Not then. Not now and not ever. What we had ended long ago. No, that's not true. I love you. I've always loved you. I was just blinded by my own stupidity. So I kept hurting you over and over, Jason. Believe me, I really do love you." I gently pushed her hand away and stepped back to put distance between us. Love is not about hurting someone. It is not about taking and treating everything they give you like it is owed to you. The love you call it is cheap and selfish. I do not need your apology, and I do not need you coming back. Now, please never show up in front of me again. After saying that, I turned and left without a trace of hesitation. The bodyguards immediately moved in to stop Ashley from chasing after me. I could feel her desperate stare, but my heart was already still. All the pain and obsession from before had long since vanished in the love of my parents and the pride of my research achievements. When I left the venue, I saw Stephanie standing at the entrance. Her hair had turned gray. Her back was bent and her old arrogance was gone. She saw me, her lips moved as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, she just lowered her head and silently stepped aside. I knew the Fang family had collapsed and her life was not easy either, but I did not feel sympathy or hatred. I just walked past calmly. After returning to the U.S., I focused even more on my research career with Chin Biotech's support. I started my own research team and solved one biotech problem after another. My parents watched me grow and felt nothing but pride. They never pushed me to take over the company. They only told me, Ryan, as long as you are happy, just do what you love, we will always have your back. Every now and then I would catch news about the Fangs back home. Mrs. Fang later ended up in a nursing home. Living out her later years in misery, Jason spent his days in the psychiatric hospital, mumbling nonstop about my results and how he was a genius. Ashley lost her inheritance and fell all the way from the top. She made a living doing odd jobs. When someone asked if I felt sorry for them, I just shook my head. Bad people usually bring it on themselves. They created their own ending, and I had already stepped out of the shadows of the past and started a brand new life of my own on a sunny afternoon. I stood by the lab's floor-to-ceiling windows looking out at the blue sky and white clouds. My mom called and said warmly, Ryan, are you coming home for dinner tonight? Mom made your favorite red braised pork? Okay, Mom, I will definitely be there. I answered with a smile and hung up. I took a deep breath, my heart full of warmth and happiness. Once I thought I was the most unfortunate person in the world, ignored by my adoptive parents, hurt by the person I loved, and abandoned by everyone. But now I understand what does not kill me only makes me stronger. What I lost was never truly mine, and the happiness meant for me would eventually find its way to me. Everything settled down and each person took their own road. The Fang family and Ashley paid the price for what they did. And after going through all the storms, I found my own sunshine and warmth. The road ahead is still long, but I will carry this warmth and happiness and keep moving forward with courage to create even more value and embrace a better life.